All right, Diablo players, let's check it out. Season 8 equals bad by Rob. These are the changes that he wants to see, so I'm going to go ahead and react to it, as I think a lot of us actually share similar interests. But let's see what else
Hey everybody, it's Rob
he mentions
the
here.
Season 8 test server has ended a few days ago, and with this video I want to share with you some things that I like to see change for the Season 8 launch. Coming in here at number 1 are the changes to the boss ladder system. So obviously we should not be able to instantly one-shot the hardest boss, the new boss, Belial, which is the new pinnacle boss, that easily. So there needs to be changes coming to that. Second of all...
Okay, honestly, the main problem comes down to the skills in Diablo. They're either like so bad that they're unplayable, and if those ones are like push down even further, if we push down everything to be like nerfed, right? If we nerf all of the multipliers, one issue that you run into is that the boss just becomes too hard to the point where people complain about them getting one-shotted. So I think most people, they're somewhat okay with one-shotting the boss, but then they don't like getting one-shotted. And I'll tell you for sure, as of right now, the boss will also one-shot you. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with this, but it's a huge power dynamic of like, some builds are like so good that they just do trillions, quadrillion, millions of damage, and other builds struggle to even hit for the millions. And it's really weird that this is just simply the way Diablo works. But anyways, let's continue.
They, for some reason, added a timer between every boss that makes you force wait 20 to 30 seconds between the boss spawns.
Oh, for the extra Belial.
That has been very frustrating. Waiting is not fun, and that should definitely be changed. Next thing here is when you click the chest, you can see this in the video here in a second, when you click the chest, it should save the previous selected option. You basically at the moment have to choose
quality of life.
the reward between those different bosses over and over again, being super annoying just after a couple boss kills. And here you can also see the
because when people do the mythic bosses, they want to do them like just again and again and again. But this whole timer thing is to let you basically get double your loot. But remember, there is no HOTA anymore in the runs here. But this is a system right here where, yeah, I agree, it should just be way faster, because again, when you do mythic boss runs, you do hundreds of these to try to get your mythic, right? Or just get the spark, because you get melted hearts to lig and you realize that item is still trash.
Are horrible and need to be reverted or changed. So with the introduction of all these new bosses, we have many bosses that share the same loot table now. For example, we always had Echo of Duriel and Echo of Endariel have exactly the same loot table.
But no one does Endariel because it's too hard.
Doing Endariel and just did Duriel because it's just a way easier fight, and this remains to be true. So I would like to see, you know, a reshift of the loot table to make it easier to target farm items, because right now we have bosses dropping like a ton of items.
I think
you could take
that's a good idea.
Items here and basically distribute them amongst like all those new bosses, and then have like, you know, 3 to 4 items to target farm per boss, making it much easier to basically like specifically farm one item rather than getting like 6 or 7 items on each
all
boss.
GA and World Tier 4.
Next year I also have T4 Lilith, so Lilith has been reworked a lot now, and it seems like a lot of effort of the team has been going into making this fight truly challenging on T4. And I think there should be some cool reward, not a power reward, but maybe some transmog, maybe some achievement or something like this, because the way it is at the moment,
there's
you
an
just kill
achievement
Lilith on T1, easy peasy, and there's basically no reason to ever do it on T4. I think there could be a cool transmog achievement reward, whatever, to do a T4 Lilith solo kill, because it is truly a challenge that I think should be rewarded.
Okay, that's fair enough, though.
We have the boss power and the seasonal theme. And oh boy, this had felt pretty bad when leveling with the season theme on the PTR.
So all the good powers are so far away.
The season theme provides, especially if you compare it to season 7, needs to be massively improved. Right now, it just doesn't seem worth it during the leveling phase to even do the apprehend incursions.
You just do the
campaign.
One thing That's what I talked about too.
What I really liked with the season 7 season theme zones is to add grim favors to this zone. Like whenever you kill, I don't know, the Shadow of Belial or something, it should give you 5 grim favors, or there should be maybe even like, I don't know, kill 200 monsters in this area as a reward to just juice up this new zone and make it more attractive at leveling. Because at the moment in leveling, you basically just want to do the campaign, which is an issue I come to later. Also, obviously, some of these boss powers are way too powerful, and rather than playing your individual build that your character is based around, you basically just play some of these seasonal powers because they just become so powerful.
Okay, but in regards to what he's talking about, and I think that he has a pretty good point, because like basically the boss powers are your entire build. Your character's damage or build doesn't really matter. As long as the boss powers are dealing so much damage, they basically overshadow your character's build. Now, there are definitely classes that can benefit off of this way more, like specifically Rogue, because you have like a uncapped multiplier. There's also the cap, with the burning that doesn't really exist with Sorc, and that's why those classes are going to be super strong upcoming in the next season. But if they're not powerful, then we can't even do pit like 100. Like there's barely any classes that's going to be able to successfully do 100, especially if you remove the powers. You basically just ruined Eternal Season for trying to clear a pit 100 because you've made the pit scaling way too high, and if the boss powers suck, then no one wants to play this season anyways. So it's going to be something that will be interesting to see how they actually balance it, because the damage is way, way, way high, but then you still can't even do a pit 150. Like they're supposed to be impossible, or like even pit 100 is really hard for a lot of builds.
And I feel they need to tune down some of the numbers on these season powers significantly, because they're just like so overperforming most of the normal builds in the game. So I think the most obvious two offenders
It's going to be the
are
Sorceress,
the Endariel's Flaming Skull power
and the potion,
the power from Belial himself, the eye beams, which is doing a ridiculous amount of weapon damage. And I feel, for example, Endariel, the secondary modifier, burning damage, take 40x more damage. That could be like, a modifier of its own, rather than adding the second sentence where every attack basically adds another 1200% weapon damage base. And then maybe they need to tune down the scaling with the Paragon a little bit, because at Paragon 300, those powers were tremendously powerful. And there's a lot of powers that have more like a supporting role, and I like that, where the power is complementing your build rather than fully taking over the build.
I mean, it's just another aspect for a
making
multiplier,
basically
though.
all builds season powers. I think it would be cool
that
for
makes
one
sense.
season to have
Like,
some
you choose
builds
one power.
based around the season power, but right now the season power is basically up to 100
So
times.
basically how it works is like you take one that gives you your damage, and all of these are like 20, 30x multipliers. I think that these would have been cooler to be more unique. The evade one is actually kind of unique, but for the most part, they're just like it's just like throwing on another aspect, just more number. It's very similar to the other season, which people have complained about too. But yeah, I get his point with like one power being super powerful, and then technically with the Andes you get the bonus damage
than
too.
a normal build, and that's just way too much, because there's no choice. You will never play like your character or your skills. Like all of your skill damage won't matter, and all your DPS right now comes from the season powers. So I would like to see some changes there as well. And obviously, like we talked about the leveling already, campaign just feels way too strong in comparison to leveling here in these.
No nerfs to campaign, please. I think just buffing the open
also
world.
Add some rewards to the leveling process, to make it more exciting. I always compare it like with Diablo 2. Leveling in Diablo 2, even if it was taking long, I didn't really mind it so much, because in the leveling process you could actually find super useful stuff for the end game.
Hey, I mentioned this too. It's basically that until you get to like getting greater affixes, nothing in the entire game matters, and that was a big point that I was trying to drive. I'll definitely read that up when I do my Diablo partner Blizzard feedback write up. I definitely think that they should make valuable loot in between when you're starting off in the game towards the very end. I mean, it doesn't have to be like level 1, I need to get a mythic drop. Like realistically, maybe once you start leveling, there's a chance to get a GA. Otherwise, again, there's no point in looking at any of the loot, because all of it's just going to be garbage if it's not GA. And I think that's kind of a problem that Diablo designed in itself when they moved into legendaries or the items garbage. They even try to buff the yellows and blues, but honestly, it doesn't matter.
Sneaks that drop, right? You could get like a mage fist, you could get like a cool faster cast ring or something. D4 doesn't really have that. Basically, all the time
everything
you spend
GAs
during leveling is completely irrelevant for the end game.
Heck yes,
it's basically
dude.
wasted
Absolutely.
time, because you cannot find ancestrals yet. You can't find any upgrade that has any value in the later stages of the game. So I think they could like address this and make it a bit more like Diablo 2, where I don't know, maybe we can find like ancestral aspects already, or aspects that
okay, just even aspects.
So it would be
that'd be good, yeah.
To like remain in this leveling phase.
Absolutely.
I feel what they did right now is they
that's a good
artificially
suggestion.
somewhat increased the leveling time, or the time it takes to reach level 60, but it didn't really get more fun, in my opinion. Like, when you just get less items, you feel weaker during leveling, and it feels basically like you're wasting your time.
Yeah, because it doesn't matter till you get to World 2 or 4. It's all waste. It's all time
way.
waster. Absolutely,
and,
man.
Next thing here is the new pit scaling. So they did change the pit scaling drastically. It used to be the pit would scale about
locking that
70% HP
150
per level, and now it scales up to 20% XP per level, and that is a crazy number. I wrote it down here in my pit scaling that I'm going to link below. And you can see here how crazy the difference in the pit and the life difference is. So in level 100, you only need 17 times the damage. And you've seen it on the PTR, how hard it is now to compete or to complete even pit 100. So that's going to become a problem for leveling the gems, but that's also going to become a problem for getting experience. Because the experience curve has not scaled.
Oh, they didn't change
and
that.
Basically
Wow.
the best way
I didn't even
to
think
get
about that.
Experience
It's only
has
pit,
been to do the lowest pit that is not challenging to your character and do it extremely fast. Like, it would be way more beneficial to do a pit 80 in like 1 minute rather than doing like a pit 90 in 1.5 minutes. Like, you always, or even the pit 100 in 1.5 minutes. You always want to be like extremely fast already. And with the new scaling, this becomes even more of a problem. So right now, the meta
remember,
is basically
your powers are tied to
challenging
Paragon
content if you want to be efficient in the game. Because it basically just like turns down the efficiency like way too crazy. And I feel like not having a challenge for your character and just focusing on speed is not really the way that most people enjoy the game, like to play all the time like this. And obviously this has become even worse. I also feel there could be an incentive to do high pits beyond 100. Right now, there's no leaderboard and there's not even any reward as in like an item or something. Like, maybe they could do like, I don't know, starting at pit 100, you have a higher chance to get greater affix items or something like that to make
maybe like at like 65 plus.
Attractive to do the...
Because doing a pit like 100, it's too hard for a lot of classes. Unless they tone down these numbers, dude, doing pit 100 is like almost impossible for some classes, as far as I'm aware of.
Tiers in
like,
general.
There are classes like
and
Druid.
then this is like some of the general feedback. I try to keep it short. Obviously, there's a lot more changes that I would like to see. I have a full document that I'm gonna link below here. Like, there's a ton more stuff. And a ton of stuff that I already wrote for Season 7, of which some they implemented here already. So they definitely did some cool stuff here.
Oh,
like
unclap the glyphs would be cool,
more challenging. They did revert the obol, so there's a ton of good changes here with the patch.
Yeah, I forgot about
Increase
obols.
the cap
That's
size
nice.
of all the consumables. We can all stack to 99 now.
For sure.
And they also did an option to right-click to the player. So they did implement quite some of the feedback that we here in the community gathered. But obviously, there's a lot more to do. And next, I really want to focus on some of the Barbarian feedback, because this is my main class, and this is also the main class, aside from the season powers, that I play.
Yep, I always go to Rob for the Barb stuff.
There are some issues I feel that still plague, the Barbarian, like, all the way to this day. So first of all, I feel on Barb, the core skills are still extremely weak in comparison.
HOTA was awesome for one season, and I guess the Dust Devils in general, but like their core, it doesn't come from the core skill. The only time I felt like Barbarian was strong in the core skill was HOTA Barb for like a couple seasons, and then it was always bugged, guys, sorry, and then it works properly, and no one plays it now, right? That's kind of the thing with Diablo.
The core skills have not been in the meta at all since Season 2. So right now, every core skill is basically just a support. Like, if you're playing Whirlwind, you're not really playing Whirlwind. You're either playing Dust Devils or you're playing Earthquake. And this doesn't really fit the Barbarian theme all too well. Like, as a Barbarian, I really want to be that melee guy that actually does damage with the actual skills, not with some environmental effect. That's like, we're not a
Bash
druid.
Barb
Like,
was
we
kind
don't
of
need
cool,
to do
though.
Our twisters to do damage or like spawn a bunch of like nature magic like Earthquake.
The Earthquake,
I really want to be that melee guy and a melee character
I think
that does
buff
damage
HOTA
with the weapons. And
You,
can
you know,
see
they did try to buff HOTA, but interesting enough, it still ended up becoming, like, even on the chess piece that you would run for the HOTA barb, they're supposed to increase, like, I think it gives you ranks to HOTA, but, like, it gives you ranks to HOTA, but HOTA still does no damage. It's almost like they have a stat that's worthless on the item, and they didn't even realize it because the whole build is all based around the earthquakes that you spawn, and then you pop them with the HOTA, which is still kind of HOTA, but, like, what's the point of giving ranks to HOTA if it still does ZDPS, right? All the damage comes from the earthquakes,
in
right?
the description, core skills spend resource to deliver powerful
Well, they also
attacks.
nerfed one of the
And I
other
feel
key
this has
passives.
not been the case in a long
True,
time.
true.
for the
Facts,
Barbarian.
brother.
So basically all the supports, all the skills here are support skills, and they are going more and more in the direction by adding these like violent whirlwind rune. This used to give damage to whirlwind, but now it's just another support rune to buff your weapon mastery skills, but never the whirlwind itself. And the other rune is also kind of useless here with just adding some bleed, and it's not really doing any damage, and this doesn't fit the Gore playstyle at all. And I also feel like there was a step back with the Gore's Devastating Grasp, basically.
Oh, it's still bad?
Going back to or going back from the mechanic and like removing the mechanic and just adding like a pure multiplier. So it used to, scale your damage by accumulating all the damage that you dealt previously,
and you pop.
Release like a powerful explosion, to now just being basically a multiplier. So I also, while I like a buff and the idea to make like Whirlwind Barb like actually deal damage with Whirlwind, but I think like these changes to the rune and these changes to Gores are like counterproductive for some of those goals. And then in general we have some more core skills like bleed builds at the moment are pretty bad because they have kept and nerfed all the multipliers.
Dude, that one gushing
wounds. I don't think we've ever used this passive awesome. Again the moment it works right now, because it basically just gives additive damage and is a lot weaker than many of the other passives. Even on some of the bleed builds, we don't even play the bleed passive. So it's kind of weird, and bleed builds have never really been meta since Flay. And Flay was not even a core skill. So I don't think we've ever had a real rend meta. And then HOTA now also is not really a core skill that has been played since Season 3, and they've nerfed it tremendously. And it's just another core skill that doesn't really serve a big function. Same is here for Upheaval. Upheaval is like, the slow skill.
Dude, Hellhammer needs a big buff.
To see Upheaval
Hellhammer
have a big upside for the downside of it being so clunky and taking so long to attack. So I feel they could really add like an upside to Upheaval, like making it like some big DPS and fully like embracing the Furious Upheaval rune even more, where you do like, one big attack, maybe like every 10 seconds to do tremendous damage, because it is such a clunky skill to use. And then Double Swing, ever since the launch, it also has not really been in the meta, and if anything, not a Double Swing build, but a Double Swing like Twister build again, but where not the damage is coming directly from Double Swing. So I feel like all the core skills on the Barb and some of the support stuff need some love in general to make the Barb like a real like melee class again, and not relying that much on nature magic, and not make it support skills like the way it works with Violent Whirlwind or with a lot of the other skills that they did. Then I feel
we just need a Diablo 3 multiplier. 12,000%.
So basically most Barb builds, like we play Weapons Master,
it's been the same,
Decimator, we play Force of Nature if you have an Earthquake or Whirlwind build, and we play Blood Rage. But there's like a ton more Paragon nodes that we basically almost never play. Yeah. So if we
That's true with a lot of the classes, to be honest.
Barbarian, there's a cool passive. I feel that they could
like Sorc with the enchant just got buffed. Like where you buff the enchant, because no one took it.
So right now, Flawless Technique, like it doesn't give you a damage multiplier.
Oh, does it not work?
It just gives you some multiplicative crit chance, which, in nowadays where we have like the Air of Perdition, we have the Starless Sky, we have like all this crazy crit, we don't really need this. And I feel like they could really make this into like a, like a Whirlwind or a core skill passive. Like maybe also if you're dual wielding, right? But basically Flawless Technique is a passive that's almost never played. And that could definitely use, a rework here. And maybe it's going to be the Whirlwind or core skill passive. That would be really cool in my opinion. And then the next big problem I see with the Barbarian here is the arsenal system, or lack thereof, on many skills.
Yeah,
So I've been given this feedback a lot in previous
it's like impossible to... Okay, so the Barbarian was originally designed to have all these weapons and you would cycle through these skills, but like, because like you have like an aspect that says, oh, your X whatever skill does more damage, how are you supposed to combine that all into one? I think they need a key passive that says like all of your things that are core skills basically are all combined into like one tag or something. You know how like, Spiritborn has these skills, or not werewolf, jaguar, or like eagle. I think maybe Barbarian could use something like that, so you can encompass all of the things into like a one Omega build that cycles through the weapons like Barbarian was originally designed, because that was in the design of like the class.
Of skills like Ground Stomp, like Steel Grasp, like Call of the Ancients, like Kick, and all these kind of things that don't let you assign a weapon. You see, if I have this on my bar, for example on Whirlwind, I can assign my weapon, right? But on Ground Stomp,
that'd be a good change
also
too, yeah.
Call of the Ancients and a bunch of other damage skills like Steel Grasp here, it will not let me assign a weapon to it. And they've been buffing like Steel Grasp and other stuff, but I still feel it is super hard to make it work, because you're just missing out on so many multipliers by not being able to choose like the weapon.
Oh, like the one-handed.
Like, I don't know, I Steel Grasp, like, and then which weapon is used to calculate my damage? Like, how does it work with Ramalali? Like, does it work with Ambidextrous? Does it work with Might Glyph? Like, those one-hand and two-hand multipliers does it work even with any of my expertise stuff?
Well, that's a good
So I
question.
feel like it would make more sense if they allow us to assign weapons on Steel Grasp, on Groundstorm, so we could also have basically like weapon swapping techniques and basically unlocking all these extra multipliers on some of these like new builds that they clearly want to make viable because they keep buffing it. Like Steel Grasp received like a massive buff to the DPS runes, and I feel like they could add more on this by making them part of the Arsenal system. Like here, this rune has a 400x% damage multiplier. Like these are cool changes.
Yeah, 400, but like it's
like dead on
dude.
arrival to make
I remember when Sorc got that plus 500x, and I was like, holy 500x, we're getting Diablo 3 numbers. And like the thing is it still probably sucks. I haven't tried Steel Grasp, but I'll tell you, Teleport next season is good, but only because it counts as an evade skill. But like to make a build based off of that, even if it has 500x damage, right? Since the base of it is too low to really ramp up, even if you get Oculus and get like 20, 30 skill points into it, it's still bad, which is weird because why would you add a multiplier to the skill if it still can't even perform, right? It's like they're almost like, okay, this skill's underperforming, just slap on a big number on it, see if anything happens. Nothing happened. Okay, well, oh well. Sometimes you're just out of luck. And I think that what they really need to do with Diablo 4 and testing when they buff this thing to give, like, I don't know if any of you guys played Rabies Druid, but they've been buffing this, give so many like numbers. But like, if they don't test these numbers, it doesn't matter how many hundreds that you add. At some point, yes, if you add like 100 million thousand, then at some point it will do damage. But what I'm saying is that like they need to test these to make sure that it works not only in World Tier 4, but at least at somewhat of a viable pit number. Like at least pit 65, right? Is like the bare minimum, because otherwise you literally can't even get like your glyph to get the bonus. But like I think trying to make most builds at least capable of doing 100 should be something that Blizzard tries to do. Otherwise, like, you're just stuck at a wall and you're like, well, this build just sucks. Sorry, that's just, you can't play it. You have to level up with another build, right?
As long as they are not
because that's a big number. 400x, that's so many aspects.
It would be much more intuitive and less confusing to players, like how the damage is calculated.
Oh, you know what I actually want Blizzard to remove? I actually need to put this in my notes, is they need to delete this attack power. This is the worst stat, because I cannot tell you guys how many times I have people when I'm streaming, it's specifically over on TikTok, but it's like, they're like, what's your attack power at, man? Oh, dude, you cleared this? Oh, what's your attack power? This number is, I don't know why. People still believe attack power is a real number. It does not matter in the game. Do not scale attack power. It is a giant meme. If anyone even says anything about attack power, you know that the player just simply, they don't know. It's really bad though, because like you have it built into the game. The armor and the life, these 100% make sense, but you really should also, instead of attack power, you should look at damage reduction, like as a percent, because I know that there's some other like damage reduction based off X, Y, and Z, but like that number also should help newer players. But this attack power absolutely should be deleted. I don't know if you want to even put in like DPS and copy this number over. That would be still a bad thing to do though, because it doesn't count a lot of other multipliers. But specifically, just please, Blizzard, delete this attack power out of the game forever, unless you can somehow make it calculate properly. Heck, even in like Path of Exile with Path of Building and all these other things, sometimes their average DPS number is still inaccurate, but at least that number gives someone kind of an idea on how much damage they deal, but this is no indication at all.
Encourage like weapon switching and making use of the arsenal system,
especially with boss powers.
Much
anyways.
More. And also this brings me to the expertise in general. So I think up to now, like 99% of
it's always two-handed X.
Always play 200x expertise. And the problem here is that you can't really play any other expertise because they don't take.
I think a good idea, let us select 2 expertise. That way we can take axe and then 1 additional one without them having to do too much. Because if they have to rework, I don't know, they'll just be like, all right, 200 expertise is the best one. All right, let's go ahead and nerf it down to the ground so no one uses it, and they pick something else. I think maybe just letting us select 2 is a quick, easy fix, right? Because then you still get the best one. Then you can, could you swap to the other one? Because I really like having the sword because it applies to bleed, which can apply a bonus to berserking duration.
Primary bonus.
Yeah.
They don't take the secondary bonus. They take only the primary bonus. So even if you would want to play polearm expertise, you see, if you take it, it's not going to give you the damage. It's only going to give you the lucky hit chance. And I feel this is like very misleading and also confusing. And this is also the reason why we always play 200x expertise. You see, like no other expertise here that we can choose even really does anything, right? Like the only other one that does damage, and this is only additive damage, is the 200 sword expertise. Like everything else is basically just some lucky hit chance. And
20%.
all this is competing with 10x multiplier to vulnerable. And even though this has been nerfed from 15 to 10%, like I think all of my builds without exception play a two-handed expertise, because it's the only thing that really does anything in this expertise slot. And I feel it's really confusing, like why the good bonus is never on the expertise slot here. Like, you know, here 30% X.
I like the sword one.
Yeah, that would actually be competitive. Or a 15x increased damage when we're healthy with a polearm. Or what is the effect here? 15x when we crit while we berserking. Or, you know, 15 plus attack speed. Like, but these don't work on the technique slot. So I feel like it would be cool to kind of like switch it or make the secondary effect
like just both.
Part of the
I think
expertise
that's a good
to really
suggestion.
like unlock alternatives
Also select
to the
2, 'cause
200
why not?
expertise of the Barbarian class. Obviously, there are many more changes that I would like to see. These are just like some of the, you know, like bullet points that I want to focus on that I think are realistic. Obviously, I also want that they add more endgame and do a bunch of other stuff. But I think like a lot of these changes here.
Does he have anything on PvP though?
Realistic, and also what I like to see, or also what at least some of them I somewhat expect.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with this. It's like you can't do anything in the game but pit. It's like we have a new season. All right. What do we do in the new season? We just do the pit again. it's like surprise, we wrapped up the same gift that we gave you last time. But I think the powers genuinely are pretty cool. But it's just like then we go back to the pit because like we had these cool like witchcraft powers, and then now we had these other powers that are pretty cool, but we still do the same thing.
Because,
I think that
like, there's, like,
hopefully Blizzard can fix
agreement,
that.
For example, on the boss timer between the runs.
Yeah,
this is
that
like
one.
A bad thing. The community doesn't want it. Waiting is not fun.
They should also. There's another thing I think that should really be added, and I saw this in one of my comments too. Is to add a blacksmith so you can like salvage everything right there, or a stash so you can stash it away, because then like you don't have to like hold on guys, wait, I gotta go back to town, and then like there's that 20-second timer, hold on, wait, there's another boss to kill, you know, or if he spawns in. So I think it should be like Belial's ready to fight and you just click either fight or it just spawns in, who cares, you know, let's be real. Even though they're probably going to be like, guys, we're going to make it so you guys can't one-shot. You guys know me or Rob or someone other content creator is going to drop a bill where we one-shot the boss anyways. And then the new boss can come and then we just one-shot it again and get double the loot. But remember, no more rotas. That's kind of something bad too.
Examples here, and I hope they're going to be some great changes. I'm still looking forward for Season 8, even though community has been like very split or a lot negative on some of the parts.
It's been pretty negative. I'm going to be straight up with you
like
guys.
What the boss powers can add.
That's why feedback is important.
And balance them accordingly. And I'm definitely looking forward to it, and I'm going to make a ton of builds.
A lot of good mentions in this video.
Next month. I hope you enjoyed, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'm also going to link this document.
But yeah, big shout outs to Rob over here. Go ahead. I'll link the video down below as well. Yeah, I actually agree with him a lot that Season 8 is bad, you know, honestly. I think there's a lot of changes, but that's the point of us content creators, us Diablo partners talking about it, but you guys can let me know your thoughts down below. And like I said, I'm going to be doing a write-up for Blizzard itself, and hopefully we'll see some of these other changes that he mentions, because there's a lot of probably really good stuff that we really want to see. Specifically, again, what's the incentive for doing higher tier pits, because there's really nothing there, and hopefully we can get some changes in the future. But anyways, that's going to wrap it for the vid. If you guys enjoyed it, drop a like, sub if you're new, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out, guys.